I'm standing here holding the keys to my own house, and I still can't believe it's real. When my husband Marcus said, "Let me take the house, she won't keep it up anyway," I thought my world was ending. But 3 months later, when my daughter Lily stood at this same front door and said, "She doesn't just fix lights, she fixed herself," I realized it was just the beginning. You want to know what's funny about being told you can't do something your whole life? Eventually, you start believing it. I believed it for 18 years, until the day I had to choose between proving them right or proving them wrong. I'm Sarah, and until 6 months ago, I was what you'd call a traditional wife. 42 years old, married to my high school sweetheart, working part-time in marketing because Marcus always said someone needed to be available for the kids. I was the woman who called her husband at work when the garbage disposal made a weird noise, who stood helplessly in the basement, staring at the circuit breaker like it was written in hieroglyphics. Marcus was my world for 18 years. 45, built like he still played football, worked as a construction project manager. Everyone always said how lucky I was to have a man who could fix anything. He'd walk into a room and immediately spot what was wrong. A loose doorknob, a flickering light, a squeaky hinge. "Don't worry about it, babe," he'd say. "I'll handle it." And I'd feel this mixture of gratitude and something else I couldn't name then, something that felt like shrinking. My daughter, Lily, is 16 and sees everything. She's got her father's confidence, but her mother's heart. She was the one who started noticing things before I did. "Mom, why do you always ask Dad if you can turn up the thermostat?" she asked me once. "It's your house, too." I didn't have an answer for her then. Now I do. Jake is my 14-year-old son, quieter than his sister, but just as observant. He's the peacekeeper, the one who changes the subject when tension fills the room. He learned early that keeping his head down meant keeping the peace. But even Jake started asking questions when things got bad. "Mom, why don't you ever drive Dad's truck?" Simple question. Complex answer. Then there's Trevor, Marcus's younger brother. 38 and single. A contractor who treats every conversation like a consultation you didn't ask for. He'd show up at our house uninvited, usually when something needed fixing, and always with commentary. "You're lucky Marcus handles everything, Sarah. Most women would be lost trying to maintain a place like this." Trevor had opinions about everything I couldn't do, which was convenient since I believe most of them. My sister Elena is 40 and everything I thought I wasn't. She's a real estate agent, divorced, independent, drives a truck bigger than most men's. She'd been telling me for years that I was capable of more than I believed. "Sarah, you manage marketing campaigns for million-dollar accounts, but you can't figure out how to reset a breaker." She was right, but I couldn't see it then. This house behind me, it's not much to look at. Built in 1987, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a basement that floods every spring, electrical that hasn't been updated since the Clinton administration. But it was our house, the place where I raised my kids, where I thought I'd grow old. Marcus inherited it from his grandmother, which meant it was always his house, not ours. I just lived in it. For 18 years, I was told I couldn't handle things. The mortgage was too complicated for me to understand. The electrical was too dangerous for me to touch. The plumbing was too technical for me to learn, and I accepted it because it was easier than fighting, easier than risking failure, easier than admitting I'd been living half a life. But here's what I learned. Sometimes the person who tells you what you can't do is the same person who's terrified of what you might do if you tried. This is the story of how I went from being afraid to change a light bulb to rewiring my entire life. And it started with the worst day of my marriage. I remember that Tuesday evening in March, like it was yesterday. I was in the kitchen making dinner, the same kitchen where I'd stood helplessly 6 months earlier when that infamous light bulb burned out. The one Marcus had to come home from work to change because I was too short to reach safely and might hurt myself. The one Trevor still brought up at family gatherings as proof that I needed taking care of. That Tuesday, Marcus walked through the front door, and I knew something was different. He didn't kiss me hello, he didn't ask about my day, he just stood there in the doorway looking at me like I was a problem he needed to solve. That's when he said the words that changed everything. "Sarah, we need to talk." Let me take you back to where it all began. 3 months ago, in this same house, when everything I thought I knew about myself was about to change forever. Let me paint you a picture of my life before everything changed. Picture this. Every morning for 18 years, I woke up in a house that never quite felt like mine. Marcus inherited it from his grandmother when we got married, and somehow that meant it was always his domain, his responsibility, his decisions. I was just the person who lived there and tried to keep it clean. My typical day started at 6:30 with Marcus's alarm. He'd shower first because he had to be at the job site early, while I made coffee and packed lunches. I'd wake the kids, get them ready for school, then head to my part-time marketing job at Henderson & Associates. Part-time because Marcus always said someone needed to be available for the kids, available for the house, available for whatever came up. I was good at my job, really good. I managed social media campaigns for local businesses, created marketing strategies that actually worked. My boss, Janet, kept asking if I wanted to go full-time, take on bigger accounts, but every time I brought it up with Marcus, he'd shake his head. "Sarah, you're already stretched thin. What happens when Jake gets sick at school? What happens when the washing machine breaks? I need you here." The washing machine. That's a perfect example of my life then. 2 months before everything fell apart, our 10-year-old Whirlpool started making this grinding noise during the spin cycle. I mentioned it to Marcus over dinner. "The washer's acting up again," I said, passing him the mashed potatoes. "What kind of acting up?" he asked, not looking up from his plate. "Grinding noise during spin. Sounds like something's caught in the drum." Marcus sighed, the way he always did when I brought up household issues. "Sarah, you can't just listen to a machine and diagnose the problem. It could be the bearings, the motor, the belt. I'll look at it this weekend." But weekend after weekend passed and the grinding got worse. I started doing smaller loads, trying to baby the machine along. I even looked up the model number online and found troubleshooting videos. Did you know that 90% of washing machine problems are actually simple fixes? I didn't know that then, but I was learning. The financial pressure was getting worse too. Marcus handled all our bills, all our banking, all our financial decisions. "It's complicated, babe," he'd say, whenever I asked about our budget. "You don't need to worry about it." But I could see the stress in his face, the way he'd shuffle through bills at the kitchen table, the way he'd snap at the kids over small things. I suggested we refinance the house. Interest rates were lower than when we'd first bought it. "Marcus, Janet's husband just refinanced and cut their payment by $300 a month. Maybe we should look into it." He looked at me like I'd suggested we sell the kids. "Sarah, you don't understand how mortgages work. Our rate is fine. We can't afford the closing costs anyway." But I did understand. I managed budgets at work all the time. I knew about interest rates and loan terms. I just wasn't allowed to understand them at home. The house itself was falling apart around us. The electrical system was original to the 1987 construction, and we'd blown 3 fuses in the past month. The kitchen faucet had been dripping for 6 months. The upstairs bathroom had a leak that was starting to stain the ceiling below it. "Marcus, shouldn't we get someone to look at the electrical?" I asked after the 3rd power outage. "I'll handle it," he said, same as always. But he never did. That's when I started watching YouTube videos in secret. Not because I planned to fix anything myself, but because I was curious. How hard could it really be to replace a faucet? What did electrical work actually involve? I'd watch these videos on my phone while Marcus was at work, feeling guilty like I was doing something wrong. Lily started noticing things before I did. "Mom, why do you always ask Dad if you can turn up the thermostat?" she asked me one cold February evening. "It's your house, too." I didn't have an answer for her. I'd been asking permission to adjust the temperature in my own home for so long that I'd forgotten it was supposed to be mine too. Jake was quieter about it, but I could see him watching. When Marcus would dismiss my suggestions or talk over me during family discussions, Jake would catch my eye with this look that said he saw it too. My 14-year-old son was noticing that his father didn't respect his mother. The worst part was Trevor's visits. Marcus's brother would show up every few weeks, usually when something needed fixing, and always with commentary about how helpless I was. "Remember when Sarah couldn't figure out how to reset the garbage disposal?" He'd laugh. "Good thing she's got you to take care of everything, Marcus." And Marcus would laugh too, like my helplessness was charming instead of pathetic. I was starting to feel like a stranger in my own life, watching from the sidelines while everyone else made decisions about my world. I didn't know it then, but I was getting ready to step off those sidelines forever. That Tuesday evening in March is burned into my memory forever. I was standing at the kitchen sink washing dinner dishes when Marcus walked through the front door. Usually he'd call out, "I'm home," or ask what smelled good for dinner. This time, silence. Just the sound of his work boots on the hardwood floor and his keys hitting the counter with more force than necessary. I turned around, dish towel still in my hands, and saw his face. 22 years together, and I knew that expression. It was the same look he got when a project at work went sideways, when someone questioned his authority, but this time it was directed at me. "Sarah, we need to talk," he said, not moving from the doorway between the kitchen and living room. My stomach dropped. "Okay, let me just finish these dishes and—" "Now, Sarah, sit down." I sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we'd eaten thousands of meals, helped kids with homework, paid bills. The same table where I'd suggested refinancing just weeks earlier and been dismissed like a child who didn't understand grown-up things. Marcus pulled out the chair across from me but didn't sit. Instead, he stood there, looking down at me like I was an employee he was about to fire. "I'm not happy," he said simply. "I haven't been happy for a long time." The words hit me like cold water. "What do you mean? What's wrong? We can work on—" "No, Sarah, we can't work on it. I've been thinking about this for months. I want a divorce." The kitchen went completely silent except for the dripping faucet I'd been asking him to fix for half a year. Drip, drip, drip. Each drop sounded like a gunshot. "Marcus, what are you talking about? Where is this coming from?" He sat down then, but not like he was settling in for a conversation. More like he was bracing himself to deliver more bad news. "I've met someone," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Her name is Beth. She works at the Henderson site. She gets me, Sarah. She doesn't question everything I do. She doesn't make me feel like I'm failing all the time." I stared at him, trying to process what he'd just said. "You're having an affair?" "It's not just an affair. It's more than that. She understands what I need in a partner." "What you need?" My voice was getting louder, and I could hear Lily's music upstairs, Jake's video game in the living room. "What about what I need? What about what our kids need?" "The kids will be fine. Kids are resilient. And you—" He paused, finally looking directly at me. "Sarah, let's be honest. You've been checking out of this marriage for years. You question every decision I make. You undermine me constantly. I question you because you never include me in anything. I ask about our finances, and you tell me it's too complicated. I suggest solutions, and you act like I'm stupid because you don't understand these things. Look at you, Sarah. You can't even change a light bulb without calling me at work. You think you can handle a mortgage? A divorce settlement?" That's when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Heavy ones. Trevor. "Hey, sorry I'm late," Trevor called out as he walked into the kitchen, tool bag in hand. "I was going to look at that electrical issue in the basement." He stopped when he saw us sitting at the table, obviously in the middle of something serious. "Actually, Trevor, perfect timing," Marcus said. "Sarah and I are discussing our separation. I was just explaining to her why it makes sense for me to keep the house." I felt like I'd been slapped. He'd already talked to Trevor about this. They'd already made plans. Trevor set down his tool bag and looked at me with what I'm sure he thought was sympathy. "Sarah, I know this is hard to hear, but Marcus is right. This house needs someone who understands it, someone who can maintain it properly." "I live here too," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But let's be realistic," Trevor continued, pulling out a chair and sitting down like this was a business meeting. "Remember when you couldn't even change that light bulb in the kitchen last month? You called Marcus home from work for that. And the garbage disposal incident? The time you thought the circuit breaker was broken when you just needed to flip the switch?" Each example felt like another nail in my coffin. Every time I'd asked for help, every moment of uncertainty, every admission that I didn't know how to do something was being used against me now. "She couldn't even fix a light bulb," Trevor said to Marcus, shaking his head. How's she going to handle property taxes, maintenance, repairs? You'd end up fixing everything anyway, even after the divorce. Marcus nodded, looking relieved that someone else was saying what he'd been thinking. It's not personal, Sarah. It's just practical. I'll buy out your share. You can get a nice apartment, something manageable, something more your speed. That's when something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the condescension in Trevor's voice, or the way Marcus was talking about me like I wasn't sitting right there, or the fact that they'd clearly planned this conversation without me. But suddenly I wasn't scared anymore. I was furious. The fury hit me like a lightning bolt. I stood up from that kitchen table so fast my chair scraped against the floor, making both Marcus and Trevor look up in surprise. For 18 years, I'd been the agreeable wife, the one who nodded and accepted whatever they decided. Not tonight. "You know what?" I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "You're absolutely right, Trevor. I couldn't change that light bulb last month." Marcus started to nod, like I was finally seeing reason. "But you know what I can do?" I continued. "I can walk down to that basement right now and show you exactly where the circuit breaker is. The one you keep saying I'll never understand." "Sarah, don't be ridiculous," Marcus said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. "No, let's go. Right now, all three of us." I was already walking toward the basement door. "Trevor, bring your tools. Let's see how helpless I really am." The basement was musty and dim, lit by a single bare bulb. I walked straight to the electrical panel, the one Marcus had always treated like it was some kind of nuclear reactor that only he could safely approach. "This is the main panel," I said, opening the metal door. "Installed in 1987, 200 amp service, 24 circuits." I pointed to each section. "Kitchen outlets, living room lights, upstairs bedrooms, bathroom fan." Trevor's mouth was slightly open. Marcus was staring at me like I'd started speaking a foreign language. "The light bulb that burned out last month? It wasn't just the bulb. The fixture has a loose wire connection. That's why it keeps burning out bulbs faster than it should. And this circuit," I flipped a switch, and half the basement lights went out, then back on, "has been overloaded for years. That's why we keep blowing fuses." "How do you—" Marcus started. "YouTube University," I said. "Turns out, when you have questions about your own house, the internet has answers. Who knew?" I walked over to the washing machine, the one that had been grinding for months. "This washing machine that you've been too busy to look at? The drum bearing is shot. $15 part, 1 hour fix. I ordered the replacement 3 weeks ago." I opened the tool bag I'd hidden behind the water heater, the one I'd been secretly building for 2 months. "I've also got quotes for updating the electrical, fixing the bathroom leak, and replacing the kitchen faucet. Total cost $2,400, less than 1 month of your truck payment." Marcus was looking at me like he'd never seen me before. "Sarah, what's gotten into you?" 18 years of being told I can't do things I've never been allowed to try. I pulled out my phone and opened a photo album I'd created. These are before and after pictures of every repair I've done in this house in the past 2 months, while you've been busy with Beth. I swiped through the photos. The garbage disposal I'd fixed, the squeaky hinges I'd oiled, the loose baseboards I'd re-nailed, the caulking I'd replaced around the bathtub. Small things, but they were mine. "You knew about Beth?" Marcus asked quietly. "I've known for 3 months. Her apartment lease is in your email, Marcus. The one you left open on the kitchen laptop. The rent you've been paying with our savings. I have screenshots." Trevor had gone completely silent, probably realizing this conversation wasn't going the way they'd planned. "So here's what's going to happen," I said, closing my phone and looking directly at Marcus. "I'm not moving out. I'm not agreeing to let you keep this house. I want it, and I'm going to fight for it. Sarah, be reasonable. You can't afford this place on your own. Watch me. Janet offered me a full-time position with a $20,000 raise. I turned it down because you said you needed me available. Well, guess what? You don't need me anymore." I walked back upstairs, leaving them both standing in the basement. At the kitchen table, I opened my laptop and pulled up 3 browser tabs I'd already prepared: a divorce attorney's website, a home equity calculator, and my work email with Janet's job offer. Marcus and Trevor came upstairs a few minutes later, both looking shell-shocked. Sarah, you're being emotional, Marcus said. Let's talk about this rationally. I am being rational, for the first time in 18 years. I turned the laptop screen toward him. I've already contacted Lisa Martinez, the divorce attorney Elena recommended. I'm accepting Janet's job offer tomorrow, and I'm having that electrical work done this weekend. You can't make these decisions without discussing them with me first. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized I wasn't afraid anymore. Marcus, you just told me you're divorcing me for another woman. I think the time for joint decision-making is over. That night, after Marcus stormed out to think, I sat at my kitchen table and made a list. Not a honey-do list for my husband, but a list of everything I wanted to learn, everything I wanted to fix, everything I wanted to prove to myself I could do. The war for my independence had officially begun. 3 months later, I was sitting in family court wearing my best Navy suit, the one I'd bought for job interviews but never needed until now. Across the aisle, Marcus sat with his attorney, looking confident in his pressed shirt and tie. He kept glancing at me like he was waiting for me to crack, to give up, to go back to being the woman who couldn't change a light bulb. That woman was gone. Your Honor, Marcus's attorney began, my client is seeking to retain the marital home based on his superior ability to maintain the property. Mrs. Patterson has no experience with home maintenance, no understanding of the financial obligations involved, and frankly, no practical skills necessary for home ownership. I watched Marcus nod along, probably remembering all those times I'd called him at work for help, all those moments when I'd deferred to his expertise. He had no idea what was coming. Marcus took the stand first, his voice steady and authoritative. Your Honor, I've been maintaining this house for 18 years. It's a 1987 construction with original electrical, complex plumbing issues, and ongoing structural concerns. My wife has never shown interest in or aptitude for these kinds of technical challenges. Can you give the court specific examples? His attorney asked. Certainly. Just last year, Sarah called me home from work because she couldn't figure out how to change a light bulb in the kitchen fixture. She's never operated the circuit breaker, doesn't understand the electrical system, and has repeatedly expressed feeling overwhelmed by basic household repairs. I felt my attorney, Lisa Martinez, squeeze my arm gently. We'd prepared for this. Furthermore, Marcus continued, the house requires significant ongoing investment. New electrical work, plumbing updates, roof maintenance. These aren't things you can learn from YouTube videos. That's when I almost smiled. He just walked right into our trap. Thank you, Mr. Patterson, the judge said. Mrs. Patterson, please take the stand. I walked to the witness stand carrying a thick folder and a tablet. Lisa had coached me to stay calm, stick to facts, and let the evidence speak for itself. Mrs. Patterson, Lisa began, your husband claims you lack the skills to maintain the marital home. How do you respond? Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence to the contrary. I opened my tablet to a photo slideshow. These are before and after pictures of repairs I've completed over the past 3 months. The first photo showed the kitchen electrical fixture Marcus had mentioned. This fixture my husband referenced wasn't just a burned-out bulb. It had a loose wire connection causing repeated bulb failures and a potential fire hazard. I diagnosed and repaired the issue myself. Marcus's face was starting to change. He was leaning forward, staring at the photos. I've also rewired the overloaded basement circuit that was causing our frequent power outages, replaced the washing machine drum bearing, fixed the bathroom leak that was staining our ceiling, and updated the kitchen plumbing to eliminate the constant dripping faucet. I swiped to a photo of certificates. These are completion certificates from electrical safety courses, plumbing basics workshops, and home maintenance classes I've taken at the community college. Objection! Marcus's attorney jumped up. There's no verification that Mrs. Patterson completed this work herself. Your Honor, Lisa said, we have a witness who can verify Mrs. Patterson's competence and the quality of her work. That's when David Chen walked into the courtroom. David was the licensed electrician who'd supervised my rewiring project and signed off on my work. Mr. Chen, Lisa continued, you've worked with Mrs. Patterson on electrical repairs in her home. Can you speak to her competence? Absolutely. Sarah is one of the most prepared and knowledgeable homeowners I've worked with in 15 years. She understood the electrical codes, asked intelligent questions, and performed the majority of the work herself under my supervision. I was basically there to inspect and approve her work. I could see Marcus gripping his chair. This wasn't going according to his plan, but I wasn't done. Your Honor, I'd also like to present evidence regarding the financial aspects of this case. I opened my folder. These are bank statements showing unauthorized withdrawals from our joint savings account over the past 8 months, totaling $14,000. Marcus's attorney was frantically whispering to his client. These withdrawals were used to pay rent for an apartment where my husband has been living with his girlfriend, Beth Morrison. I have copies of the lease agreement, utility bills, and text messages confirming this arrangement. The judge was taking notes now, looking serious. Furthermore, Your Honor, while my husband claimed I don't understand financial obligations, I've prepared a comprehensive analysis of the home's value, maintenance costs, and my ability to carry the mortgage with my new full-time position at Henderson and Associates. I handed the judge a detailed financial plan I'd spent weeks preparing. I'm requesting to retain the marital home, and I'm prepared to buy out my husband's share using funds from our joint savings account, the funds that remain after his unauthorized withdrawals. The courtroom was completely silent except for the scratching of the judge's pen. When she looked up, she was looking directly at Marcus. Mr. Patterson, the evidence presented today contradicts your testimony regarding both your wife's competence and your own financial conduct. I'm awarding the marital home to Mrs. Patterson. I had won. The house was mine. 3 months after the court ruling, I'm standing at my front door with Elena, who's now handling the final paperwork to officially transfer the house to my name alone. The late afternoon sun is hitting the new windows I installed last month, and I can't help but smile at how different everything looks now. Sarah, I still can't believe how much you've transformed this place, Elena says, looking around at the updated electrical fixtures, the fresh paint, the small improvements that have turned Marcus's grandmother's house into something that finally feels like mine. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you stop asking permission, I reply, signing the last document that makes me the sole owner of this house. As we're finishing up, I hear Lily's car pull into the driveway. She's been at her after-school engineering club, something she joined after watching me rewire the basement. My 16-year-old daughter, who used to roll her eyes at anything mechanical, is now talking about studying electrical engineering in college. Lily bounds up the front steps, backpack over her shoulder, looking excited. Mom, we designed a circuit board today that can control LED lights with a smartphone app. I want to show you. That's incredible, honey. Maybe we can install something like that in your room this weekend. Elena laughs. Listen to you two. A year ago, you were calling Marcus to change light bulbs. Now you're talking about smart home installations. That's when I see Jake coming around the corner of the house, tool bag in hand. My 14-year-old son has become my regular weekend project partner. Today, we've been working on building raised garden beds in the backyard. Mom, I finished securing the corner brackets, he says proudly. And I pre-drilled all the holes for the irrigation system, just like you showed me. Perfect. Tomorrow we'll run the water lines and plant the vegetables. It hits me in this moment, standing here with my kids and my sister, that this house has become something completely different than what it was during my marriage. It's not just maintained now, it's thriving, and so are we. Lily drops her backpack and looks at me with this expression I've never seen before. Pure pride. Mom, she says, remember when Dad said you couldn't even fix a light bulb? I nod, remembering that night in the kitchen that feels like a lifetime ago. Well, you didn't just fix lights. You fixed yourself. Elena gets a little misty-eyed hearing this. Even Jake, who's usually embarrassed by emotional moments, is smiling. The transformation has been about so much more than learning home repair skills. Over the past 6 months, I've discovered that competence breeds confidence, and confidence changes everything. I'm not just maintaining this house, I'm improving it. I'm not just surviving my divorce, I'm thriving because of it. My new full-time position at Henderson and Associates has led to a promotion. Janet put me in charge of our biggest client, a home improvement chain that's expanding across 3 states. The irony isn't lost on me that I'm now the marketing expert for the same kind of home improvement stores where I learned everything I know. But the real surprise has been my side business. What started as helping one neighbor fix a leaky faucet has grown into Sarah's Skills, a service that teaches basic home maintenance to other women going through divorces or life transitions. Every Saturday morning, my garage becomes a classroom where women learn that they're more capable than they've been told. Last week, a woman named Patricia came to my electrical basics workshop. Her husband had just left her for a younger woman, and she was terrified of living alone in their house. By the end of the day, she'd successfully wired a new outlet and was talking about taking on bigger projects. "I thought I needed a man to take care of me," she told me as she packed up her tools. "Turns out I just needed someone to show me I could take care of myself." As for Marcus, he's struggling. The spousal support payments, combined with supporting Beth and her expensive lifestyle, have left him financially strained. Trevor barely speaks to him anymore, embarrassed by how wrong they both were about me. Most importantly, his relationship with Lily and Jake has suffered. They see him differently now, and respect isn't something you can demand. It has to be earned. Standing here today, keys to my own house in my hand, I realize that the best revenge isn't anger or bitterness. It's success. It's proving that the person who tried to diminish you was wrong about what you're capable of. For 18 years, I let someone convince me I was incapable of taking care of myself. But competence isn't about gender or natural ability. It's about being given the chance to try, to fail, to learn, and to grow. Every woman who's been told she can't handle something should know. You're probably more capable than you think. You just need the courage to find out. They said I couldn't keep the house up. Turns out the house kept me up. It gave me a reason to discover who I really am when I stopped listening to people who want to keep me small. So that's my story. From being told I couldn't change a light bulb to becoming a homeowner, entrepreneur, and teacher, helping other women discover their own strength. It wasn't easy, and there were plenty of moments when I doubted myself. But every small repair, every new skill learned, every boundary set was a step toward becoming the person I was always meant to be. If you're watching this and feeling stuck in your own situation, remember, you're more capable than anyone has told you. The person trying to convince you that you can't do something might be the same person who's afraid of what you'll accomplish when you try. Your journey might not involve power tools and circuit breakers like mine did, but whatever it is you've been told you can't handle, maybe it's time to find out for yourself. If Sarah's story inspired you or reminded you of your own strength, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to see more stories about people who refuse to stay small, make sure to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Until next time, remember, the only person who gets to decide what you're capable of is you.